Each time the rent turns over, we'll probably save ourselves a couple of $100s.
Say I'd save about $500 per unit.
Definitely save several thousands of dollars a year.
There's many advantages to having smoke-free apartments for both the tenants and the landlords.
Definitely can save money on apartment turnovers if you have a no smoking policy.
It costs about $600 to $1,500 extra to clean up an apartment when a smoker moves out versus a non-smoker.
Well, if you have smoking going on, the walls are going to be covered with smoke, the house is going to be full of smoke, and it sticks on all of the furniture and all of the rugs.
It's going to be good for us. We're saving a bit of money on insurance.
Smoking inside of an apartment building is one of the leading causes of fire, not only in apartment buildings but in housing as well. Insurance companies are looking at this now. It's becoming more popular to get a discount on your homeowner's insurance if you have a smoke-free policy.
And that's all money saving, and I don't know any landlord that wouldn't want to save money on expenses in their buildings.
An all-around cleaner building. There's no cigarette butts outside that you have to rake up and clean up.
You don't get a residual smell, so when you show it to future tenants, they don't come in and automatically smell smoke and they get turned off, so you kind of limit yourself to who you can rent or who's willing to rent from you.
You can always have tenants smoke outside.
So do I want to rent to the one person who wants to smoke in their apartment, or do I want to rent to the half dozen other people who can't tolerate the smoke?
There's nothing that prevents a landlord from making a rule about smoke, and we like to make it clear that it's about the smoke. The smoke is a toxic substance. It's not about the smoker.
There's a real important reason for landlords as well as for tenants to be aware that it's legal for apartment owners to have smoke-free policies that apply to their apartments, and the same way with condominium associations to have smoke-free policies that apply to smoking within the condominium units.
Even in a heavily restricted environment like the one we're in, which is government subsidized housing.
Even though I am a smoker, I prefer not to live in an apartment where there are smokers.
A few months ago there were smokers who lived upstairs. When they moved in, my life became quite miserable. My son and I are quite allergic or something to smoke.
Secondhand smoke leaked up through the radiators, the holes in the floor for the radiators, and through the walls, and I smelt like there was a smoker living in my unit.
The problem with secondhand smoke is it will find a way out of where it is into something else. In apartment houses, it doesn't matter how much you seal up pipe chases or cracks or windows, there still is air movement within a building, and with that air movement goes smoke.
You go home and you cannot protect your child, which is a really vulnerable feeling. You cannot protect your child in any way from what's creeping through the doors and the walls.
The first thing we did was send out a survey to all of our residents to see how they felt about smoking in their buildings.
When we bought the building 3 years ago, we notified the tenants that were here that we were non-smokers and the building was going to be no smoking inside, but that if they wanted to smoke, they'd have to smoke outside.
We have non-smoking throughout our rules and regulations and included in our lease.
When we put the ad in the paper, we put no smoking. When people call, we emphasize, you do know that this is a no smoking building. And when they move in, they sign the lease as a paragraph. They initial every paragraph that in the agreement.
That isn't a problem with any of my friends or family because they knew the rules, so it's not a problem.
If we have smokers, they will be restricted in their smoking such that it can only occur 25 feet away from the building.
Out front, there is a smoking area, and this summer there will be chairs and a table and a place to dispose of cigarettes. So they're being very fair about it, I think.
I was afraid that I would lose business, that people were free to go other places where they were allowed to smoke, so that I didn't feel that I'd be competitive if I didn't allow smoking. I've had no problems renting.
We hardly ever have an empty apartment. I don't know. I don't know if we've lost a month in the last few years of rental, and we can rent them usually within a week or two.
I have friends that smoke, and they definitely don't smoke in their apartments because they understand what it does to the building.
In the last 6 or 7 years that I've had smoke-free housing units, I've found increasing numbers of smokers wanting to rent from us.
I love it because it took me about 2 months to find an apartment, and a bunch of the ones that I looked at smoking was allowed in them, and it just immediately was a no.
It's clean, it smells good, I know that my health is protected.
Oh, I love this. I love it, absolutely. I think it's, I don't wake up with just that stench.
Even though I'm a smoker, I don't like the smell of walking into some of the apartments where I used to live where they smoked. It was bad.
I know a lot of the elderly people, their spouses smoked for years and years and years, and they're so pleased to have a place where the smoking is not allowed.
We even had a tenant upstairs on the second floor who had a problem with asthma. He thanked us for turning it into a smoke-free building because sometimes when the people were smoking downstairs, it did come up and bother him.
This is not restricting anybody's right to smoke. They can still smoke.
I think when you weigh the issues of fairness and the health of your residents, I think the health issue has to take precedent.
We don't ask if they smoke or do not smoke because it's not about that. It's about reducing risk, reducing money, and making a healthy environment.
I'm Maine Attorney General Steve Rowe. As a landlord, you have a responsibility to provide safe housing. In a recent report, the United States Surgeon General concluded that there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. When tenants smoke, they can affect other tenants who do not. By law, if a non-smoking tenant can show that his or her space is unsafe as a result of smoke migrating into it, the landlord is responsible to remedy the situation. Also, a landlord must make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities, including those with respiratory problems. The easiest way to ensure that secondhand smoke is not a risk is to adopt a non-smoking policy. A non-smoking policy does not violate Maine's Human Rights Act, as that law does not recognize smokers as a protected class. Of course, this does not mean that you must refuse all smokers housing, but it does allow you to make your rental agreement conditional on no smoking within the units. Thank you for your concern for the health of your tenants. Please consider adopting a smoke-free policy and help make Maine the healthiest state in the nation.